Everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Code. As you can see, I'm back in my studio. Today I'm joined by Aaron Payas, who's an old friend and an excellent crypto lawyer. He's a partner at Hassans in Gibraltar. He's also an ex-footballer and a lot of other really cool things that we're going to hear about today. He's also just an amazing dude. I know that I always say that about almost everybody they interview, that they're amazing people. But the reason for that is not because I'm overusing the word amazing. It's just because I have a lot of really, really awesome people here on the podcast. And I hope to continue to bring a lot of awesome people here on the podcast. So enjoy this episode. Welcome to Beyond the Code, the podcast where industry experts and brilliant legal minds discuss the impact of new emerging technologies. I'm your host, Yitzy and Aaron, a lawyer and tech enthusiast. Join us as we explore the legal, regulatory, and ethical issues surrounding AI, blockchain, and more. Get ready to go beyond the code and stay ahead of the game. All right. Aaron, welcome to the podcast. This is very exciting. I've been, we've been in this space together for quite a while. I think the last time we hung out was like NFT NYC 2022.
Correct. Something like that. Yes.
And that was good times back when NFTs were still awesome and you were rocking your ape as your profile picture.
I still do.
You still do, but you're one of the fewer ones now. But kudos to you for keeping it up. You still involved in the community at all?
Yes. Well, as much as I ever have been. So that wasn't a great deal, but try to keep up as much as possible.
Fantastic. Okay, so I always like to start these podcast sessions off with asking people to introduce themselves. Like I could read a whole monologue about all the things you do and the things you're involved in. You're a funds lawyer, you're a football player. I'm not sure if you're still a football player. You're an NFT degen of sorts, and you're an excellent crypto lawyer. So I could touch on all the high level points, but I'd much rather hear it from you. So if you could just give me a very, very, very deep introduction into who is Aaron Payas, how you got to where you are today, and then I'll kind of bother you with a bit more questions.
So first and foremost, thank you for inviting me on your podcast. It's been a long time coming. My name is Aaron Payas, and I am from Gibraltar, born and raised here in Gibraltar. I'm a crypto lawyer mainly now, but still do a lot of investment funds work. And that comes from my background in mathematics. So actually my degree is in mathematics. At the time I wasn't sure what I wanted to do as a career, so I was good at maths, so decided to go down that route because I knew it wasn't going to close any doors, but it was going to open many. And I always had an eye on becoming a lawyer for different reasons. It was at the time as well the financial services sector here in Gibraltar wasn't as developed as it is today. So a lawyer had a different type of appeal because there weren't as many opportunities. So when I finished my degree in mathematics, I decided to do what you can do in the UK is known as a conversion into law, a 1-year conversion into law. And then I did an extra year as a barrister. So when that happened, I came back. I was offered a role here at Hassans, and I was put into the investment funds team because of my mathematical background. So it's good. It was great for me because
they wanted you for that, or you wanted in for that. Like you were looking to get into something that was mathematical, or they're like, you're a maths guy, we're taking you for funds.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both. I think so. The managing partner at the time, still the managing partner now, I think had the great foresight of seeing that it was going to be a good fit for me because of the exposure to the stock markets and to asset management generally. So I think apart from football, which is kind of one of my main passions, asset management became my second passion. And that was really good. I enrolled onto the CFA course as well, because I just wanted to learn more about asset management and really get some structure to my learning, because I was just doing ad hoc learning on the internet. And then roll the years forward to 2016, 2017, when the ICO craze began to hit. Gibraltar, as a small jurisdiction, becomes one of those jurisdictions where people with new ideas, they like to go to the likes of Gibraltar. The BVI came and set up entities in these places from which to do innovative things, such as token sales. So that's when I was brought into the crypto space. And
You were brought into, or you fell into?
I was brought into it internally. So
Like they said, like you're the
my
math
partner here
dude,
at the law firm, who you also know, Anthony
Anthony.
Provasoli, was the pioneer at the firm, going to conferences when no one really knew about Bitcoin. But as soon as the interest started racking up, he just called me in for some assistance, and it was perfect for me, because with my maths background, I could understand crypto quite naturally. And with my funds background, I could handle ICOs pretty well, because if you think about what it is, the concepts that you would apply to a fund, you can apply easily to an ICO, in terms of collective investment, the pooling of assets, investor protection, disclosures, all of these things, the drafting of a form of white paper or prospectus. So we gave a lot of good structure to these ICOs out of Gibraltar. And that came hand in hand with the government of Gibraltar, together with the Gibraltar regulator, the Financial Services Commission. They worked on a DLT framework back in 2017. So since the 1st of January 2018, we've had a license, our DLT license available, and there's been a lot of interest. So even back then, there were a lot of companies, the likes of Elmax, the likes of eToro, who were actually looking for a place to be regulated. So even though it was a bit of the Wild West back then, there was still a lot of very serious companies looking for a good place to set up in. So that was the way that I began in crypto, and it's become the majority of my work is now crypto. Even my funds are crypto funds, so it's there's a big influence there. And yeah, and I know you're going to mention it. So yeah, at the same time as I was doing all of this, I was also playing football on the side. Played for Gibraltar at an international level, so had a few great experiences outside of work as well. So I'm now, before you ask, I'm now too old. I'm retired now. My knees won't let me play. So now I'm fully focused on this, and crypto has become sort of my third passion after with asset management and football. So yes, very happy to still be in the space, and it's good to see how crypto really is now very much established.
I love how you're equally passionate about pastimes like football that you are about asset management and crypto legal work. Like it's not often that you hear people specifically in like the services industry that are passionate about your work, but it is actually more often than not that I find when I speak to crypto legal professionals or people working generally in this industry that they're here because they're passionate about the space, and it's uh it's something really unique. I feel very fortunate also that I'm very passionate about the work that I do. So
Yeah,
there's
I think it's very important. I think it's super important. I can't imagine myself having a job where I really don't like it, or I don't find it rewarding or fulfilling. I think you can do that for maybe a few months, 6 months, year max, but I don't think it's
but you can't
sustainable
build a
in
career
the
out of it.
long run.
Yeah.
And I think it used to happen to me, like with my maths degree. People are like, oh, "Are you crazy? How can you have a degree in maths?" And it's, well, if you like it, and if you're half decent at it, then it becomes like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy almost, because you enjoy what you're doing, so you get better at it and you put more hours into it. And I think that's super, super important.
So I want to ask you a little bit before I go deeper into Gibraltar's regulatory regime, a little bit about like on a personal level how you fell into crypto. So I understand that they pulled you in. They wanted some of your work, your funds background to come into the firm's crypto department. But I think that you aped in a little bit deeper than just that. Just judging by the fact that you were also passionate about NFTs, that doesn't come from like a strictly work perspective. There's a passion there as well. So tell me how as a math guy, did you read the Bitcoin white paper and you were like, oh shit? And what was it like getting into NFTs, and what level of involvement do you have today?
Absolutely. So although a lot of these white papers, the Ethereum one in particular, goes a bit deeper and gets very technical. At a basic level, and I guess intuitively, as a maths as someone who my brain is wired that way. I've always considered myself, funnily enough, more of an engineer rather than a lawyer. But I think that's helped me bring different things to my practice. But from the beginning, the questions that I remember clients saying, you don't ask the typical questions that other lawyers ask us. And I think it's because of that exposure. I did a bit of programming during my degree. That type of thing, the way that you think logically about problems and logically about how these programs and this type of software work, it really helped me dig deeper and ask questions, not just at a superficial level. So I enjoyed understanding exactly what's happening under the bonnet, so to speak, and that helped me then carry out my legal and my regulatory analysis at what I felt was, or at least what worked for me, at a deeper level, and therefore the answers became clearer to me. So in terms of and that was, of course, aided, as I mentioned before, by having a DLT framework in Gibraltar for so long. That gives you the legal and regulatory certainty. But then you need to actually understand exactly what a project is doing to then apply the law accordingly. So it was that combination of things which, again, because you have the ability to do good work and you like what you're doing, then it's you keep on doing it, and you keep on um, you keep on getting better at what you do, and therefore the clients, it actually rubs off onto the clients. The clients notice, that leads on to more referrals, and it's just a very nice way to build up what is now a very big practice for us as a law firm and for myself. But if you look back, it was actually it's come up from nothing, right? So a completely new industry out of nowhere, and that is the amazing story about crypto.
So what's it like practicing law in Gibraltar? I mean, it's a small island. I can't imagine that there are that many law firms. I used to think that Hassans always says that it's the biggest law firm. I thought that was joking, and it's really the only one until I recently started working with another law firm on the island. But you guys must be like a very loud voice on the island. What's that like?
Yes, for sure, for sure. So we are, for all intents and purposes, very quite significantly large, even in relative terms. So I think all in all, combined with our fiduciary business, we're around 250 people. So when you consider that Gibraltar's population is like 32,000, it's a significant percentage. So we take care of a lot of families. We support a lot of families, and we're very, very proud of that. But in terms of practicing law, yes, and we love that we have such a strong legal family in Gibraltar, and we really do cover all types of laws. So my this law firm, because it's the largest, we have the ability also to have specialist departments. So we don't have in some of the smaller, you know how it is in some of the smaller law firms. Lawyers will do a bit of everything, a bit of litigation, a bit of property, a bit of crypto, a bit of other financial services. Whereas we can dedicate ourselves more to certain areas of law. So not that that is better than than any other model, but it does really
It's what
allow you
makes you
to develop
unique.
a bit more of the expertise and really focus on something. And that's what we've done with crypto. So we've been completely focused on it for the last 7-8 years, and I think that's evident when we have conversations with clients, simply because we've been exposed to so much. And I think with most things, but I think with crypto in particular, you can read about it. There's loads of books out there. But until you deal with real people, with real projects and real problems, that is really when you start to understand in depth what this space is all about. And what it's about is uncharted territory. Most of it is just not paths that haven't been trodden before. And I haven't seen anything like it since. Like even now with AI, a lot of the AI there's a centralized nature to it. There's someone who's developing, someone who's controlling the AI, someone who's doing the inputting. In crypto, when projects are truly decentralized, then that all goes out to the window, and the regular frameworks don't work. So how are you going to handle that now? And that's what's super interesting.
Absolutely. So let's double click 1 second on crypto in Gibraltar. So you guys definitely had a first mover advantage. I remember also my entrance into the crypto legal sphere was also in 2017 when there was a big peak in ICOs, and we at Hertzog we were doing, I don't know, like it felt like it was like twice a week another ICO, and I wouldn't say the majority, but a very good portion of them were looking at Gibraltar, and we were working with you guys as well. And you guys definitely dominated the market, being the first or really the second with a DLT license. But it's not the same today. I think things are a bit more stale. Maybe you guys got tired and didn't continue to innovate in order to stay relevant as other licensing regimes came out. What do you think happened there?
Yeah, well, so to be completely honest, we thought that the first mover advantage was going to be there for 1 or 2 years max. So the fact that we're actually still benefiting from it to a large extent is amazing for us. And yes, it was always going to happen. It was the amount of work that we were getting was absolutely crazy. Back in 2017, 2018, we had a small
I remember.
committee of 4 or 5 of us, 4 or 5 partners actually, and we used to meet 8 a.m. on Monday mornings because we had to meet before 9 a.m. To discuss the anywhere between 8 and 12 inquiries that had come in the week before. So the filtering process on which projects are we actually going to dedicate the resources to, who's going to handle which project, are we actually going to take on board all of them, all of these things. That was the type of problem that we had at the time.
A healthy problem, I'd say.
Yeah, so it was crazy, but that was never going to be sustainable. It was never going to be forever. So what we find is that the industry has matured. So it's not so much the Wild West now. People, you can't raise 30, 40, 50 million on a token sale on the back of a 3-page white paper anymore. And so that's the maturing of the industry meant there was going to be less, but we were hoping for less projects but more quality, and we have found that we have moved into that space. Remember as well that we've gone through Brexit during this time, so we've actually
I was
left
gonna
the
say.
EU. So all the talk about MiCA as well went out to the window. So we would have become a very good jurisdiction out of which you could get your MiCA license and passport into Europe. So now we are positioning ourselves a bit different. So it's if you're looking for access into the EU market, then you need a MiCA license. So find yourself a jurisdiction in the EU. But we're finding that a lot of the bigger projects are looking for they are going for the MiCA license, but they're looking for another jurisdiction to set up the license for sort of like the rest of the world, right? Because the EU is a very unique beast in the sense that it has the 27 member states, and you get one license and you can passport within it. The US as well, it's a whole beast of its own. But if you think about the rest of the world, there isn't any form of passporting between jurisdictions. That's evident. So are you going to set up a company in each jurisdiction with a license in each? It's not realistic. So
Not realistic.
what projects do then is they say, okay, where can we find one jurisdiction where we can service some of these or many of these by reverse solicitation or through proper registrations for marketing and financial promotions. But let's get one license, one solid license in a reputable jurisdiction, and then from there have that outlook into the rest of the world. So we have projects, very large projects, and the next 6 to 12 months is going to be very exciting because of the news that's going to come out of Gibraltar of the type of names that are getting licenses, the DLT license in Gibraltar. But they're looking at that, an entity in the EU.
As part of that access to rest of world philosophy.
Exactly. Yeah. So they set up here, and then from here you can target Latin America or maybe even Australia, New Zealand, and you can do a lot of business out of Gibraltar, knowing that it's reputable. There's a long track record now, particularly in crypto terms, very long track record in terms of our legislation, and we have got in Gibraltar, we're all up to speed with crypto as well. That's what the framework has given us. So the lawyers are up to speed, the compliance officers, the accountants, the banks, the government, the regulator. So it's a very good environment in which to set up an entity, have a small team here supported by the larger team for the bigger projects, and from here just kick off for your rest of the world offering.
So you mentioned Gibraltar's reputation. Do you find that it suffers from being lumped in with like offshore or light touch jurisdictions?
Yeah, well, it does happen, and so reputation and perception is something which takes a long time to change. But we've spent the last 30 years with a clear direction that we want to move away from being a tax haven. We want to move away from being considered offshore. So any international regulations or requirements that appear, we just apply straight away. So whether that's OECD or FATF, whatever it is, and that comes at a cost, because if some projects are looking for just a lighter touch jurisdiction, then Gibraltar is not an option for you. So it does come at a cost, but we believe that long term it's the right way. It's the right way to go. So even our corporate tax level has now slowly but surely it's gone from 10% up to 15%, which is considered like the international minimum. So that again, we want to move away from being that tax haven, having that tax haven label. So very much wanting to be a premier finance center. It's of course difficult, but and we went through the Moneyval assessment with the FATF as well. We had never been assessed before. We actually got put on the grey list for about just over a year, and now we're completely cleared. And again, grey list seems to be the way onto the white list is through the grey list seemed to be the case, because it was ridiculous that we were on the grey list to begin with. So again, those are the type of steps that we are taking to position ourselves. We don't really want to find ourselves being considered like the Caribbean islands, some of the Caribbean islands, or some of these smaller jurisdictions where it's not really what we do. And we're very much, another thing with Brexit is that we're the only jurisdiction that has retained the passport into the UK. So we protect that with everything that we've got. So our banks, we've got banks that have a very large presence in the UK, but they're actually licensed in Gibraltar. So it's a Gibraltar bank passporting into the UK. the insurance market is super strong. So 35% of the auto insurance market in the UK is underwritten via Gibraltar entities. So that's something which we've kept. We protect with everything. And again, if we were to be seen as non-compliant in any way, we would lose that passport, and that's not what we want. We want to be aligned with the UK as much as possible.
And I'm assuming like a small island, big law firm, very reputable law firm. You guys probably have like very good relationships with local government and regulators. No, like I'm sure, like talking about reputation, I'm sure you guys have done your fair share in helping to establish Gibraltar as a reputable jurisdiction. I'm
Yeah,
sure that the
yes,
government has
absolutely,
appreciation of that.
absolutely. But without taking away all of the good work that is done by people who are not Hassans. So I think we all work together. I think we all row in the same direction in that sense. But of course, we've got extremely good relationships at government level and with the regulator. But yeah, always to a limit where everyone does the job independently, and there's no overlap in any way. So that is as important as being compliant with all of the international standards.
Absolutely. Okay, going back to um, the golden days when you guys were inundated with crypto projects. So, as someone who's been in the industry for quite some time and has seen, the rise and fall of certain aspects of the industry and certain key players, some of whom were also um, domiciled in Gibraltar. What of all the companies that you've worked with and all the entrepreneurs, give me one case past, one case present that you've worked with that you really think pushed the envelope in terms of innovation or legal creativity.
Well, it's an easy one. It's an easy one for me because we worked
Celsius, right?
with INX in 2018. So INX, the INX token was the first and remains the only security token to be approved by the
Regulated.
SEC in the
Yeah,
US. So, and not under any of the exemptions, but for full retail, full public offering. So that took more than almost 2.5 years. I think 13, 14 rounds of feedback with the SEC. And the wonderful story for us in Gibraltar is that the token issuer, INX Limited, was a Gibraltar company. So we handled all of the Gibraltar elements of that project. So yeah, eternally grateful for Shai Datica for bringing us in. But he saw the value. He saw what was coming in terms of regulation. That crypto will be regulated at some point, and he could have raised easily 50 million in a few days if he wanted to through a utility token sale. But he insisted on doing things properly, calling things by their name, which is that this token was actually going to be a security token, but just recorded on the blockchain. And we worked with him so hard on these things. We worked with the U.S. Council, of course, and it was a great experience. It was a great experience because not only to be involved in that first security token offering approved by the SEC, but also that, as you can imagine, before the approval, the SEC carried out like a forensic analysis on Gibraltar's laws, on the company, the constituting documents, on everything, and we just passed every test with flying colors. So that was again for us an amazing moment. Again, I think our approach to crypto, which was a serious approach, not trying to circumvent financial services laws, not trying to get too creative, but just really trying to set up a framework that that filled in that gap that had been created by crypto, where it's not a stock, it's not a bond, it's not a security. What is it? But by having that framework on crypto, it allowed us to handle the security token much better as well, because we had it clear what crypto is, what crypto isn't, and what the technology actually does.
It's interesting. Everybody who was played a part in the legal support of the INX token and bringing it to fruition and making it happen views it as a tremendous success. And it is. Like, in that sense, like what you guys did, you jumped through major hoops and you came out with flying colors, and you deserve a medal. But the actual platform itself, like, even though it's fully regulated and everything's kosher, it's there's no activity there. There's no
Yeah.
volume. There's no real token listings.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because they didn't do a good job in building a good platform. I think it's just that, like, they're super, 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 super early, and we haven't yet seen, like, the if only security tokens were meme coins,
Yeah.
it would be
Yeah.
it would be flying. But so it's unfortunate because I am a big fan of INX as a platform. It just I think it's hard to call it a win outside of the regulatory challenges it was able to overcome.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's we need the likes of INX and Archax and some others. We need them to do the work that they're doing in order for this to be a success
Yeah,
in the
they're
future.
like
And
Coinbase, like
hopefully they
flying the
benefit
flag.
from it more than
Yeah,
anyone. But it doesn't always happen that way. But tokenization is a funny one, because it's the concept and the idea is there, and it's easy to understand, but the reality is still that if you want to invest in property, and you are putting in a lot of money into property, then if you can invest into the property via the traditional routes, then you will. And if they offer you a tokenized route, then you'll probably say no, because you have no appetite
it's
for the
foreign to you.
added risk, and maybe there's no added
Yeah,
risk. But the fact that you don't understand it and it's something new, if you don't need to do it that way, then you don't. So I think tokenization, and it's the discussions that I have with many of my clients, is straight away you need to realize that the the investor pool that you're targeting, as soon as you say I'm going to tokenize this, couldn't even put a number, but a very, very, very small percentage of the actual investor pool that exists for traditional investment. So now you've got
through the tokenized, through the
the
securitized
tokenized
route, through the securitized route. If
to the
you're going
security.
down the non-securitized route, launching a token, you're exposed to more investors because less regulatory hurdles that they have to go through. Somewhat more fluid on KYC, AML, etc. So
And we know
yeah,
how
but it's
difficult it is to raise money anyway for
yeah,
any project. So on top of
yeah.
that, you add the tokenized element. So a lot of these are trying to use it for exactly that reason, to stand out, to have to be able to make the news with some form of article or whatever. But it's when you break it down, a lot of it is just a marketing gimmick. It's there's no added value.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's added cost and added complexity for tokenizing when you could avoid it. So, and I think that's why the likes of INX haven't really taken off, because it's a very niche. It's still a very, very small world in the tokenized space in terms of the amount of projects being tokenized and the amount of investors that are looking to invest into tokenized assets. So yeah, so it's one to watch for sure. But I think most people in the space, this was being talked about 6-7 years ago. I think most people thought that we would be more advanced than we are at the moment in terms of real world asset tokenization.
Agreed. I still think I'm very bullish on RWAs, and I think that that's probably one of the best use cases, but we're still worlds away from where we need to be. It'll take
Yeah,
time. And guys like INX and others who are out there flying the flag, we will all be grateful to you
absolutely.
one day. Um, So you're a Gibraltarian lawyer, but I'm asking you to take off your Gibraltar hat 1 second and pretend like you're jurisdiction agnostic.
Yep.
If you had to give one piece of advice to a crypto startup evaluating jurisdictions right now, not necessarily requiring a license, what would that be? I know that's very broad, and there's a million follow-up questions that you'd have to ask them.
Yep. So
it's not a fair question.
It's difficult. It depends on what type of project you're looking at. So if it's something very financial, which is basically financial services, then the likes of Gibraltar, but the likes of Bermuda can be very good options to start off with. If you're a startup, I think the EU.
Obviously, for everybody listening, this is not financial or legal advice.
Absolutely.
We're just spinballing here. We have no details of you or your company or corporation. And even if we did, we'd be charging you $1,000 an hour just to give you the answer. So disclaimer is given. Moving on with your answer.
Never financial advice. But and the EU is with MiCA. So I love MiCA because of what it's done, which is put the seal of approval on crypto assets. So the fact that the whole MiCA framework got developed is just shows that there is an industry which is not caught by the traditional financial instruments, financial securities. So that is what I love about MiCA. But what I dislike is that, and it happens with everything in the EU, is that in order to get a license and to be able to comply, it's too burdensome for a startup. It's crazy for the top projects. It's almost impossible for the startups. And all that means is, and again, I thought we'd learned our lesson back in 2008. But all that we're doing is that we're increasing the barriers to entry. And what you find yourself is only the big fish can play in that pond, and now you have the problem.
Everybody else is cutting corners.
Yeah, and now you have the problem of the too big to fail again. So that is the problem with MiCA. So in terms of a startup, you're forced to look at other jurisdictions, smaller jurisdictions that are more nimble and more flexible and more willing to work with you, which cannot be the right approach, I feel, from the perspective of places like the EU, because you're pushing projects away that would prefer. You got a French founder, and he would prefer to just set up in France. Why go anywhere else? But I think it's still the route to take. Still look for smaller jurisdictions that are still reputable, that have a framework that works and has been tried and tested, have advisors that understand the projects that you're working on, and that would be the way to start for sure. And again, depending on the type of project that it is, then perhaps you would look at one jurisdiction over another. But I still find it's quite specific on what type of project you're trying to set up.
Very good answer. Politically correct and to the point.
And an honest one as well.
What's that?
And an honest and truthful one as well.
Yes, an honest and truthful one. Okay, I want to talk to you 2 more points briefly. I tried to get your answer earlier, but I'm going to circle back on it. You have a Bored Ape.
Yes.
Okay, not many people have Bored Apes. There's only 10,000. And some people dumped on there. Some people just stopped being active. I would love, and there's still a lot of people out there who are really curious about the community and about the insanity that it was in 2021, 2021 when they first minted, and then they had all the associated swag that came with it, and some people who just had absolute generational wealth from spending $300 turned into millions. Tell me a little bit first about how you got into the Bored Ape Yacht Club and what your journey looked like holding your NFT and being a member of the community, and why you're still holding it today.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm not sure I can actually put my finger on exactly the one thing that attracted me to the Bored Ape Yacht Club, but since I saw it the first time, basically fell in love with the collection. Like I loved, for some reason, I found it amazing. I really liked the art. And now if you ask me what's great about it, I probably can't tell you, but it still had the vibes that it was giving me, and I just loved it from day one. Whereas, for example, the crypto punks, it never
spoke to you.
appealed to me, and neither did, and neither do, if I may say, any of the other collections. So the Pudgy Penguins and the World of Women, and none of them have that appeal for me, and that's completely in terms of I guess that's normal psychology in art, and art bias, that everyone likes different things. But the funny thing, well, not so funny when I think about it now, is that I kept telling people that you should get a Bored Ape because it was at 3 ETH and I didn't have 3 ETH. And then I got saved a bit, and then it was at 6 ETH. And I'm like, it was running away from me. And then it was 9 ETH, and then it was 15 ETH. So I'm not going to tell you what price I got in the end, because I don't like to speak about those things, but it was higher than that at the time. Not nowhere near the top. But I finally managed to get my hands on it, and I just absolutely loved it. I loved it. I got some advice from some friends, both local, actually from here, from the law firm, and externally. I've got a partner here, Vikram Nagrani, who actually has one as well. So we're both ape holders. And yeah, in a way, I went all in. I bought the Lego set. I bought the full bust.
I didn't know there was one
of my Bored Ape.
I saw you have like a cool animated movie also.
I did a cool animated movie about it, correct, as well. I did some bookmarks. I did some playing cards that I've given out to clients. So I really enjoyed having that. And I also felt at the time that there were a lot of lawyers as well, specifically, if I may say, a lot of advisors, but a lot of lawyers that saw that, weren't there at the beginning with crypto, but saw that it was taking off, particularly at the time when NFTs went crazy. But you could see that they were giving out wrong advice, and they really didn't care about the industry, and they were just in it to benefit from the business, but really weren't invested in it at all. And I also felt that by having this NFT and having it as my profile picture actually had throughout the correct messages to the industry, which was not just a lawyer. I'm someone who is actually passionate about about the space, and I put my money where my word is, where my mouth is. So
I love it.
That's really the story behind it. And since then, I just haven't changed it. I've thought about maybe 2 or 3 times, should I change back to my normal profile pic, but I don't see. I still like to have it there, particularly on my LinkedIn. I'm completely doxed because you can find me wherever. Search my name and the Bored Ape will appear, but also me in a suit and me in some football gear. So it's not as if I'm hiding anything. But yes, it's that. To long story short, that's the answer. I really love the collection. And then I like the idea of having it as my sign out there that I'm really in the business long term.
I love it. Keep it up. Stay bullish.
For sure.
Last thing I want to ask you about is I couldn't help but notice that you're a Spurs fan. So first of all, we're a rare breed, unfortunately, and it's good to be in the same boat.
Amazing.
And second of all, congratulations.
I knew you were a good guy. I didn't know exactly why, but now I know.
I got to say that I have to attribute my my Spurs fanship to my mother-in-law, who's a huge Spurs fan. In fact, my daughter had a bat mitzvah a couple of weeks ago, and it was the night of the final cup, and she was nowhere near the dance floor, and I kept kind of trying to look for her to bring her to dance, and she was just sitting there on her phone watching the Spurs game. So
brilliant. So happy for her.
Yeah, so credit goes to her. And it's good to be in good company.
Absolutely.
And thank you for joining me. For those interested in getting in touch with you to jam about football and NFTs, or to set up a fund or obtain a license in Gibraltar, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, LinkedIn is a great option.
Okay.
But if not direct, via email. My email is on my law firm's website, but it's on my LinkedIn page as well. Don't really do social media.
X and LinkedIn links.
So LinkedIn and X is what I use, and it's always just my name. So my handle is always just at Aaron Payas. I don't complicate things.
With 2 A's.
Yeah, 2 A's. Correct.
All right. Thanks, Aaron. Thank you so much.
Yitzy, thank you very much. I will speak soon.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Code. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, share with your friends, and to tune in again next week for more fun and insightful conversation.